I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy.
A guy by the name of Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., was running as a Democrat. And you all know, I've said it a million times, I said the day he announced that he would not be a Republican by the end, but he certainly would not be a Democrat. And that is what happened. They kicked him out of the party. He realized how corrupt they are. And just imagine right now, if the Democrats were running RFK versus Trump, you got a real election. There's a real battle of ideas there. There's two competent people and everything else, but they kicked him to the curb. Here's his response to what just transpired over the weekend.
I want to add that a little over a year ago, when I entered this race, I predicted that President Biden suffered from a degenerative condition that was not going to improve and that it would make it impossible for him to govern effectively. The reaction of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public and to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. I think, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She's a war hawk. The Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official.
All right, so look, you can have your disagreements on whatever it might be with RFK. I have my disagreements with him. We've aired them on this show as we've sat down together and discussed some of those things. But just imagine if the Democrat Party had gone in that direction instead of the direction that they are in right now. I would say the silver lining to all of that is it's becoming, and I think will become increasingly obvious that, people always say, well, which way is RFK going to take votes? And you could make the argument that he'll take some from Trump because, he really focused on COVID and there's a certain amount of people annoyed with Trump over COVID. But I think it's very obvious now that if you are a good, decent Democrat and you are out there and you just have Trump derangement syndrome so you can't do it, well, there's your guy to vote for. So I think he will absolutely take more from Kamala or whoever the Democrat is.